This is Big Tasty Sports. Welcome to NFL Best Bets Week 6. We're back with another round of picks for another week in the NFL. You'll find as you listen to people today that Week 6, people are a little bit it's a tough week to decipher in some ways. There's some teams that we still are just having a hard time knowing how real they are, but everybody dove in and I think found some good spots. So first up, the recap. Last week was the first down week. So out of 5 weeks, there's only been one that's been down, and it was last week. Confidence level 3 picks were 3 and 5. They're still 22 and 17 overall through the season. So still five picks over 500 with those. Confidence level 2, also fine. Those were actually 3 and 2 last week, so positive there, 19 and 14 on the season. It's confidence level 1 that continues to be pretty brutal. In fact, at this point, as they say, you might want to fade the confidence level 1 until further notice. 0 and 2 last week, which brings it to 1 and 8 on the season. Pretty putrid. In fact, if you just stuck with level 3 and level 2 confidence, you'd be doing pretty well this season. So level 1 struggled again. We'll keep going at it, but that thing's in a hole. And then the plus money picks were 2 and 3 last week, which brings it to 13 and 14 overall on the season for plus money picks. As I always do, if you were a $100 bettor and you followed every single bet and bet $100 on any plus money pick and bet enough to win $100 on any other pick, you would be up $421.26 so far on the season. So about 4.2 units after 5 weeks. So we take a little bit of a dip, but coming back strong in week 6, looking to get right back up on the upswing. One thing I do need to mention before we head into the picks for this video, if you don't know, I record with each person who's on the show Tuesday night to Wednesday morning. And so obviously there can be line movement as we're recording. One of the things with any show like this is you need to go see what the lines are at when you're listening and take that into account. If somebody says they like something at -3 and it's -4, by the time you see it, it's not an automatic thing you want to bet. You got to figure out if it's still a bet you like. That pops up very obviously this week. And I'm going to give you the specific example where this showed up. So on Tuesday night, I talked to Kevin, and this is going to give away one of his picks, but that's all right. Kevin took the Eagles -4.5 at -110. Well, by Wednesday morning, and it was around 11 o'clock, so it was later in the morning, unfortunately, by the time I could talk to D-Nice, he took Dallas on the other side at Dallas +6. So that line had moved a full 1.5 from Tuesday night to Wednesday morning. Now, obviously, we're in a spot where both of those bets could actually win. If the Eagles win by 5, both of those things hit. And so listen to their breakdown, listen to what they're talking about with the game, and decide where you fall on that if you want to make a pick. But I just wanted to point out that with the format we're doing, there are going to be times here and there, it actually hasn't happened often, but where we could get some significant line movement from one pick to another. So I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I do want to tell you is if you listen to Kevin, if you're interested in college football at all, there are 2 free college football picks hidden in the podcast this week as well. All right, that's enough of me talking. Let's jump into the... Well, I'm very happy right now, and the reason is last week I didn't get the chance to talk to my good friend Phil, and this week I get to. So, Phil, it's great to have you back on the line, man.
Hey, it's good to be here. Good to be here, live from my hospital bed.
Phil is fighting through it today to be here, too. I
Oh.
mean, that's some commitment for you to be talking to anybody right now, especially about something silly like some best bets.
Well, I don't like most people, as you know. So, but that's the whole tennis thing in me, you see. And
Yeah,
the
man.
best part here is I get my internet for free. The nurses bring me food, and I get to leave at 8 p.m. just in time to go home, go to sleep, and get up and go to work again the next day. I still got a job, Tasty, and I can't even walk.
You do. It's you've got a couple jobs, man. All the stuff you're doing for covers and everybody else, plus all the PT. That's like 2 full-time jobs.
Oh boy, this PT is a trip, man. Let me tell you, I learn something new about myself every day. And at age 57, I thought I knew it all, but apparently I don't. Sometimes I feel like gambling Twitter.
No, you're definitely not gambling Twitter, man.
No, I tell you,
It's a rough
I don't
spot.
even, I can't even look at that anymore. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
even bother with them.
gets pretty
Crying
rough.
about refs, crying about this, crying about that, crying about players, calling players out their names behind a keyboard, threatening people and crying because your account gets dismantled. I mean, what more? Who are these people?
I don't know, Phil, because the people that I know are pretty legit and don't do that
Amen.
kind of stuff. So I don't know who those people are. But
Amen. Like I was telling my editor this morning, I said, winners hang out with winners and losers hang out with losers.
it's pretty true. You become what you surround yourself with, right?
Yep. And I'm surrounded by pretty nurses. So let's go.
On that note, all right, let's jump in. That's awesome. All right, Phil. Well, hey, what are you going with for your first pick this week?
Well, I'm trying to shake that 0-3 there. That's it. That was a pistol. It's amazing. I've lost like 5 media games by a total of like what 11 points.
Wow.
Yesterday, if it wasn't for that stupid call, I'm complaining now. That cost
Yeah.
me an MVP parlay, as you know, right? That
Yep.
would because that would have got my first half under, and I would have hit a 4-teamer, and it would have been about $9,000. Oh well, it is what it is. But I'm taking the Dolphins money line to this week.
Love it.
Out there.
What are you thinking with that one?
Oh, truthfully, I think that the Vikings defense is horrible. I think that the Miami Dolphins, banged up or not, have more skilled players at the offensive position than the Vikings. I also happen to believe that Kirk Cousins doesn't play well on the road, and we have those numbers. We can go back and look and back that up. The other thing is that Miami's offense, like I said, banged up or not, that Vikings defense is not very good. And I'm sorry, Vikings fans. I have a very soft spot in my heart for y'all. But at the end of the day, I just think Miami will outscore them. I got it for $1.40. I like that number because, quite frankly, a week ago it was the other way around, if you remember. So
I
that's my
I
play.
I do absolutely remember because as I told you before we got on here, I bet Miami over a week ago before all the injuries, and it was minus 120. And I thought I got a good line at that point. But it has flipped. It's up to plus 145 now, even. I just checked. So I will say, Phil, I love my Vikings, but their defense is absolutely concerning. And also things like last week where they go out and put up a lot of points on the Bears in the first half and then can hardly score and let a team like that come back on them. It just doesn't bode well. So now going on the road, it's the Vikings aren't great. They're average. They're just an average NFL team. So
Hey, does anybody know do you know who the Miami Dolphins 4-string quarterback is?
I don't. Do you? Because we might need to know.
I sure don't know, but I think Teddy Bridgewater will play. Teddy covers, and as you've seen this year, teams that win also cover at an alarmingly high rate. So let's go with the Finns, and that takes a lot for me to back the Finns. Their match fixing from 2 years ago. I remember when that came out. I reached out to 4 different Dolphins beat writers, and they all gave me the same game they thought was fixed. So that was pretty wild. So for me to bet on that team and Mr. Ross, the owner, they must have a pretty good edge.
But you're doing it anyway.
Because I don't have a choice. It's Tuesday, and I'm here with you.
I know. That is the thing. We were talking about that before, too. Picking these games on Tuesday is tough because of injury news. If you knew if Teddy was playing for sure or not, it obviously makes a difference in this game. So,
right. But I think the thing, too, I guess, for me or for anyone, it's okay to pick them early. In fact, sometimes you get a lot of times you get the best value. But when you're doing media like this and people are watching on Saturday and they go, what are those numbers?
Yeah,
what
right.
Are those lines? How could he pick the Dolphins with Teddy Bridgewater, Skyler, whoever, and even Mike McDaniels? He might even be out. Why? What is he doing? Pick number 2, Tasty.
Give it to me.
Colts, money line, minus 125. two teams that are untrustworthy. I don't know what y'all love about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, did we lose him?
You get slapped like that at home, you're probably not that good. The Colts have beaten the Chiefs at home. The Chiefs aren't bad, as you probably saw on Monday night.
I do know that.
I mean, they're actually pretty good. In fact, I think the Chiefs are going to win that game against the Bills, but that's an extra edition of the best
Bonus pick.
Yeah, we'll call that a bonus pick.
That's
But
right.
but honestly, the Colts have the worst defense in the NFL, but they did beat Kansas City at home. And the Jags, which Jacksonville Jaguars team is going to show up? I'm kind of thinking it's going to be the one who showed up last Sunday. But I can't trust the Colts on the money line because they are on the spread because are on the side because they're dead to me. And at the end of the day, we go Colts minus 125 money line.
All right, 2 picks down, 2 money line picks.
Yeah, well, you know what? I got to do something, right?
So what's coming for number 3?
Oh, this one's not a money line. This one
All
is
right.
probably this is the best play of the day right here. 49ers minus 5.5 against the putrid Atlanta Falcons.
You don't like Atlanta, huh?
I don't like anybody. You know that, Tasty. Cordero Patterson out. He's the biggest part of that offense. He made Marcus Mariota look good. I forgot Marcus Mariota was even in the league. You know,
I think a lot of people did.
Huh?
I think a lot of people did before this year.
I thought he pulled a Blake Bortles and just exited quietly, and didn't say a word.
Yet he's still going. Atlanta's been covering like crazy.
Well, they ain't going to cover against the 49ers because I don't know if they're going to score. The 49ers have like a historically good at this point of the season, historically good DVOA. And that's defense. You guys can find that you can find these numbers. And I suggest you do. I'm a big football outsiders guy, at least their DVOA and those little advanced analytics. I'm a big fan of them. But the Falcons defense stinks, Tasty. And the problem with the Falcons is that they're running into a 49ers team that's getting some confidence. It must be hard for Jimmy G. Jimmy G's probably laughing every time he goes in the huddle. Last year, let's get rid of him. Let's put Trey Lance in there. Jimmy G shows up, right? This year, they don't even want to sign the guy. They don't even want him to practice at camp. He has to go practice in the side parking lot. And now he's the starting quarterback because Mr. Trey Lance, well, it's sad for him, but I think his career is just about over already. I think he and Tua are going to do commercials together. They could do a reality show.
I like it. That's actually not a bad idea.
Throw Johnny Manziel in there.
Got quite a house working there.
You could call it Big Brother, the NFL edition.
Oh my gosh, Phil, you need to get on that. Work with a producer or something so nobody steals your idea.
I know one. I was in a movie, as you know, Tasty.
I actually didn't know that.
You didn't? Oh, because I don't brag about those things on Twitter. You can go to IMBD, Google Phil Nations, and you'll see I played myself in a movie this past summer.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to look this up.
Yep, I was a sportscaster, and I interviewed somebody on a TV set.
That is awesome.
Frank and Edna Take on Le Mans. It's an independent film. My friend is a producer, and I happened to be there in the studio, and someone didn't show up, and so I jumped right in there and just smashed it. Had a ball. Never want to do it again, though.
That does sound. That sounds awesome. So a producer, so you need to go get this Big Brother NFL edition made.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. We ought to put some referees in there. What we ought to do is put Roger Goodell in there, alongside the rules committee, and leave them there. But film.
Oh boy,
but
it was rough this last weekend.
I've been watching the NFL for about 52 years, maybe. But probably 48 years where I actually knew what it was because I was only 5 then, I wasn't the genius that I am today. But at the end of the day, those pain pills are kicking in big time, Tasty.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, yeah. Thank God. Holy
Here we go.
Oh, here we go. Let me go off on some Twitter people now, but no, that's okay. But honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what a catch is. I mean, we used to play two-hand touch in the street, because we grew up in the urban. We were rougher there.
Yeah.
They
You
don't,
can you,
you know,
you
I
can
know
barely touch
people.
those quarterbacks.
I know people who played quarter. In fact, the other day I talked to a friend of mine named Greg Morton. I don't know if you remember him. He played for the Buffalo Bills. He was an All-American out of Michigan, 1977. He's dear friends with my first tennis coach, and he played defense for the Bills in '77. And he said he wouldn't be able to play defense in this league.
I don't blame him. It's
He said you can't do anything.
I mean, I'm for protecting player safety as much as
Yes.
possible, but when we get to the point where a guy just like gently sets someone on the ground and they still get a penalty, I mean, at that point, there's nothing else for him to do, you know?
I didn't understand once the ball comes loose.
Right?
I Now I was a high school referee, Tasty, believe it or not. And one thing that we were always taught to do is don't blow that whistle till you know where the hell the ball is. And they didn't know where that ball was, did they? But they knew where their flag was, and that's a problem. What it's going to do between these Thursday night games in Denver? Why is Denver every week on Monday night or on prime time?
Because they thought they were going to be good once they got Russ, and they are not.
Oh, yeah, well, we all saw what happened there, but they can't even score a touchdown.
No, they cannot. Until further notice, Denver team total under, I think. So,
Or just leave them alone; they're dead to you.
or just leave them alone. That's also not a bad idea with
Yeah,
that
but
team right now. So.
I really enjoyed being here with you, Tasty. Sorry for the incoherent picks today, but I did my best.
Dude, you're good. I mean, we got pain meds, PT, all this stuff going on. Hey, I will say for anyone who is not already doing it, go follow at Cash with Flash. Phil is putting out a lot of great stuff for covers these days. There's baseball, there's college football, there's NFL, all kinds of great. And the great thing there is you get the analysis and you get the picks. That's what I always appreciate, because then you can look through the analysis and see what you like and what you don't like yourself. So make sure you go follow at Cash with Flash. Check out all those good articles that he's getting out there, man. You've been a machine lately, and I want to make sure people are seeing it.
And a private prop bet machine too, huh, Tasty?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't know if I should mention that, though.
We're up about, what, 50 grand now?
If only I was betting enough to be up 50 grand on anything.
Yeah, but you know what? Those are free bets. You only get one, but you count them as a content provider, right? Well, you saw you have access. Very few people have access to those. You're one of them, though.
Well, I appreciate it. I always appreciate you letting me in on stuff, man.
Well, I just wanted, what it was is because I don't have time to advertise a lot of this. I do a lot more than what they see, as you know.
Yeah.
I don't have time to be putting that nonsense on Twitter. If I did that, I would be posting all pics. I'd be posting articles all day. I do like 8 to 10 a day.
Yeah.
You can go to my link tree. There's links there. Everything is there. But I just don't have time. I don't have time to log all that stuff at BetStamp. For that, I use that for my media picks. For this show, the important stuff.
The important stuff gets on BetStamp. That's right.
That's right. All right, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey,
good stuff.
Great to talk to you again, man. Hope the recovery continues to go well. Good to talk to you, dude.
You too, man. Catch you later. Everybody have a good week.
All right. I got Kevin on the well, I was going to say on the stream. We're not streaming, we're recording. But Kevin, good to see you, man. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. How about you?
Dude, good, man. Good.
Vikings were scary, dude. I had the Vikings in a tease, man. I was scared. I thought it was done.
I actually did too, and I'm always skeptical of the Vikings. That kind of shit. The Vikings are an average NFL team. I mean, they have high upside on offense, but their defense is just scary to me, and their offense just shuts down sometimes.
Yeah,
So, but hey, we're going to talk about something more fun. So we're going to give people maybe not a free pick, but some free analysis. You are big into college football. And I will just say, I've been following you this year, and I've been getting into college more too, and I've enjoyed it. But definitely always looking to see what you've got coming out. Go follow Kevin Himes 8 at Kevin Himes 8. You got to see this guy's college football stuff he's got coming out.
Himesy 215 on BetStamp.
Oh, Himesy 215 on BetStamp. Great.
On BetStamp. But yeah, it's in my bio on Kevin Himes 8.
Yep.
Go to Kevin Himes 8, you'll see it.
So go follow that stuff. Ton of picks. So we're gonna quick before we do the NFL. We're gonna give the people a little bonus and talk some Michigan Penn State, which is a huge game in the Big Ten this weekend. So I know that you're on. You've made some bets on Penn State. I have Penn State from a while back, but this should be a good game, right? I mean, these are two solid teams. Tell me what you're thinking about this game.
Yeah, so I think from pure power rating, I made the game 5, Michigan -5, but I think there's some other edges that Penn State's going to have in this game. One, being off a bye is huge. This is a kind of make or break your season spot. I mean, you still got the Ohio State game down the road, but this is a huge game, And with Michigan, they're kind of, I've kind of been slightly lowering them down as far as a power rating than they were at the beginning of the season, and they just haven't. They played 3 or 4 cupcakes at the beginning of the year: UConn, Hawaii, Colorado State. They took care of business, but those are bottom 5 teams in all of college football. And then when they kind of stepped up in class the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's not been too impressive. And I think a lot of it is, defense kind of took a step back. I think right now injuries are kind of piling up on them. They got a great offensive line, but looks like their tackle isn't going to play. Their best tight end and their wide receiver didn't play last week, Eric All and Wilson. Doesn't look like they're going to play either. And McCarthy, who I think has a big upside, has not impressed me. And Penn State's got an elite secondary. I think what Michigan's going to want to do and what Penn State should be preparing, which they should have been preparing all week, is how are we going to stop the run? Michigan's going to want to run the ball. They're going to have the crowd edge, obviously, in Ann Arbor. And I think if they can come out and maybe put some points up early on Penn State, then things could go a little bit differently. But I think Penn State, all in all, has more talent on both sides of the ball. I think Michigan is better in the trenches, but that's it. Like, say what you want about Clifford, not an NFL guy, but dude's like 5th year. He's been a starter. Like, he beat out Will Levis, who everyone thinks is going to be an NFL guy. Like, he's not that bad. This is his first year with the same offensive coordinator. Every single year he's had a different offensive coordinator. I think people are sleeping on Penn State a little bit. And I think there's a reason why, I think it opened 7.5. It came down to 6.5. I think people are in the mindset of, lay it with Penn State over a touchdown and take it with Michigan -6.5, which I understand. But I think Penn State has the chance to win this game.
Yeah, man, I think so too. And you hit on a couple of the things that, and I'm definitely not at the level you are of knowledge of some of these teams, but I do think that run game from Michigan is huge. Like, they've run all over people, and I think if you can stop the run. The other thing, when you brought up Clifford, sometimes really good college quarterbacks aren't necessarily great at the next level. Like, there are some guys. And I think it's guys like Clifford, where he's 5th year. He's got, this is overplayed sometimes, but he has that moxie. Like, he's been there. He's got guts. Like, I just think he's the kind of guy you want leading your team. So,
in a weird way, like, I didn't bet them against Auburn, even though I knew they were much better than Auburn. And say what you want about Auburn, people are trying to discredit that win. Like, it's an SEC team that they recruit SEC guys. You went on the road and you blew them out. Like, that's better than anything Michigan has done. Would Michigan been able to go in and blow out Auburn? I really don't think so.
Yeah.
And it's weird. But the point I was trying to make is, like, Clifford and Franklin kind of do always come up short in big games. Like, they have the chance to win and they'll blow it. But in a weird way, like, if I got money on, like, I'd rather have my money on Clifford at the game's on the line than McCarthy. I just trust, like, going back to that Purdue game, like, I never felt, even though he threw that dumb pick 6 that went, they're driving, he throws it at the 50, it takes it 60 yards to the house. That's, you kind of get like a, it's a dichotomy with him. He's Jekyll and Hyde, but I think he's gotten better the more experience he's got. He knows when to run, pick up the first down. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he can do that.
Right.
He can move the chains.
Totally. Well, yeah, and like you said, you'd rather have Clifford, and also you've got Clifford and 7 points. So exactly. It's not a pick.
That's a kid, yeah.
So, All right, man. Well, hey, that's fun stuff. I know we've said before we could kick around college for a while, but we got to get to our NFL picks here as well. Hopefully people enjoy the free college, but well, it's all free, so I don't know why I say free. The extra college. So
there's a lot more free picks if you want to go on bets then.
Yeah, so, that's right. That's right. There's a whole ton of
you better, so there's plenty where that came from.
That's right. All right, man. Well, let's jump into the NFL. What do you got up first this week there?
I mean, I was going to have to come on here and give them out, baby.
Do it. Give it.
It's Dallas week. Dallas week. So this is the breakdown for me. Last week was a very strange game for the Eagles. And I'm going to start it off by saying this. In the NFL, I think one of the key ways to win a Super Bowl is injury, is to not get injured. I mean, if you look at the Rams last year not getting injured, you look at, all these teams, whoever can stay healthy. And I think Nick Sirianni is being smart. He's doing a very good job of that. I mean, there's a reason why you guys all had the Eagles in the first half, right? He's going to come out, get the lead, and put on the brakes. He doesn't want his guys getting injured. And you look at last week, and I'm a guy who had A.J. Brown over 5 receptions. First drive, 3 receptions, going to him, carving him up, you go up. And then they just go away from him. And I'm looking, before we hopped on here, I'm looking at, kind of the formations they're running. And he wasn't on the field nearly as much as he usually is. I mean, they're running 12 personnel, right? 2 tight ends, and they got Devontae Smith and Pascal out there. No A.J. Brown. And then they're running 13 personnel, just Devontae Smith. And a part of that, too, was 3 linemen went down. So I feel like, knowing him, he probably didn't think that they had a chance to lose the game, even though it ended up being close. And like, hey, I got 3 linemen out. I already don't like my guys getting hurt. I want to put the brakes. I'm not going to have Hurts drop back. I'm just going to throw 17 screens to Devontae Smith, and I'm going to run the ball. If you don't got all your protectors, you don't want to risk it. Let's just get this game over with. And, besides being injured, another big thing is number 1 seed, home field advantage. And that's this week. So this week, I think you're going to get all the stops. There's going to be no second half let up. It's just start to finish. You're going to get things you've never seen before, and it's going to be the whole way. And, a couple other things. I know our left tackle probably could have played last week. They held him out. Kelsey, he came back into the game. And Dickerson, the guard, I'm hearing that he's probably going to play too. So I think all of these guys, although they haven't been ruled in yet, will play. That makes me think the number will probably trend up. Another thing, Dak, is he going to play? Is he not? I don't know. I really don't care. And this could be a scenario where you don't get the best of the number, but right now being at 5, kind of a dead number anyway, I wouldn't care if it went to, 3.5.
Yeah.
I think this is they win by a touchdown at home. Biggest game of the year for the Eagles as far as a home game. And they're going to be there. Also, Parsons a little bit banged up.
Yeah, that's right. He is, which is a big deal, I think. When you say biggest game of the year too, I think that's an important point because when I've been spending more time with futures, but a lot of that is just looking at schedules. And the reality is that Dallas is Philly's hardest games. Right. This one, and then when they go to Dallas, that's their hardest games.
Even before the season, I thought that.
Yeah, it's probably true. I was more
because I thought even the Giants and I think Green Bay too, but the schedule is very, very easy. And I'm sure there's going to be some dud games where they lose and they shouldn't. I kind of circled Arizona as possibly being one of them games. And they didn't play good, but they still won.
They pulled it out, right? So,
and here's another big thing with Dallas that I'll say. I think their strength, everyone knows, has been their pass rush. I mean, they've been winning games with Cooper Rush. Yeah, he's been good, but he's getting a lot of the credit, and I think it's kind of the pass rush. But let's look at who they played. You lose to Tampa. You play the Bengals. Probably say bottom 5 offensive line, right? Then you play the Giants. Probably say bottom 5 offensive line. Then you play the Redskins. Carson Wentz, most sacked quarterback in the league. And then the Rams offensive line has been horrible. I mean, they can't run the ball at all. You still there?
Sorry, man. Can you hear me?
You're good. I can hear you now.
Okay. I don't know. My video's messing up, but that's all right. As long as we
It's
got
all
the
good.
audio, we're good.
Where did I leave off at?
Just the Commanders.
Okay, we have the Commanders. Okay, so long story short, just look at their last 4 games with Cooper Rush and look at the offensive lines they played. And I think with Dexter Lawrence and Parsons, I mean, that's the strength of their team. But what are the Eagles, by most people's standards, the number 1 offensive line in the league? So I think it's a very big difference for them.
Great. So I'm double checking the lines when we make these picks. This is Tuesday night, and I got Philly -4.5 at -110 now. So
I'll take it.
We'll take that one.
3.
All right. What's the three confidence? Love it. It's
3.
4. I can hear it in your voice. It's actually a 4, but I'm only letting you go to 3. So, all right. What's pick number 2?
So pick number 2, there was 2 totals that I liked. I'll tell you them both. First one was Bengals Saints. You know, on this pod, I think every over I took was with the Saints, involving the Saints, and it was the Saints at home. I just love that dome. But the reason, and I see that the total's actually going down a little bit. And the reason is the injury report. I mean, we don't know about Higgins. Olave's in concussion protocol. Thomas was out last week. If you can give me if you give me Higgins and either one of Olave and Thomas, I'm taking that over.
Okay.
You know, Lattimore could possibly be out too, but I'm not going to take that one. So not an official play, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Okay.
The over that I am going to take here, Green Bay and New York Jets over 46. Green Bay is a defense that I thought was going to be good going into the year. Really good. I mean, as relative to Green Bay, where it's usually Rodgers and the defense stinks, last year they were good, and I thought they were going to be, the best they've been in a while this year. But I mean, you look at some of their player grades and some of their performances, not good. I mean, backup quarterbacks in New England running up and down the field on them. Daniel Jones not healthy with no receivers up and down the field. Like, don't know what's going on. Yep. I know Rasul Douglas has played very, very good for them last year, and he was another Eagle that, besides Jalen Mills, I thought was one of the worst cornerbacks I've ever seen. And like most Eagles, he leaves and he does really good on another team. I don't know why that is, and it's not just him. It's Amos has had his worst season of the year of his career so far. Darnell Savage, after having good rookie year, good sophomore year. Last 2 years, he's been down. They lost one of their good pass rushers to you guys, right? Zadarius Smith.
Yep.
They kind of miss him. And, I think the Jets are good offensively. I mean, I like those wide receivers. I think they can move the ball through the air. We saw Breece Hall and Carter's a good little 1-2 punch.
Yep.
And then you're going to get Aaron Rodgers off of a loss to the Giants. And don't like the Jets defense, so expecting them to put up his fair share of those points too. So
yeah, man, and I would add, I actually think Green Bay's receivers are starting to look better. Like Lazard looked pretty good in that last game. I think Dobbs is showing a lot of potential. Randall Cobb, there's a lot of confidence for Rodgers there.
Cobb.
So yeah, like I do think that while Green Bay's offense hasn't been clicking, I do think they actually probably have more potential than maybe we thought early on.
Yeah, the offense
those guys come around.
Yeah, you're right. The offense has been they've been running a little bit different play calling is what I'm hearing from people. They're opening it up a little more. Whereas at the beginning of the year, it was kind of like, I don't trust these guys. I'm just going to play it safe. And now
Lazard was out, so
yeah, and Lazard being out.
Yep.
So,
all right.
I'm going to make that a 3 as well.
3. All right. I love it. We're going with lots of confidence this week.
Yes.
All right. Now it's time for the big plus money pick.
We're going to go with the defense, who's probably the worst in the league, but I like them this week on the money line. Seattle Seahawks at home. And This line, I saw it at 2.5 and I loved it. And I bet it at 2.5. And then when it got to 3, I mean, I bet it even more. And it might have been my biggest bet of the year.
Wow.
And I think they can win outright. I think their offense is humming. And I don't
It is.
like this Cardinals defense at all. I like the guys that they drafted, Simmons and the other linebackers, but they haven't really panned out. And I think their quarterbacks are terrible, which is why I was so, I thought last week was so strange for the Eagles that first drive, they just threw all over them and then they just stopped. And then they're just screen passes. And I think Geno Smith he's playing good, dude. I mean, I think he was a guy he was always a little bit better than people thought, but I think this is obviously he's found something. And with DK and Lockett, if you improve a little bit, then the offense is going to be good. And I like Penny's down, but we saw Kenneth Walker break off like a 70-yarder last week against the Saints. People like the Saints defense. I mean, they put up 32 against them last week, put up 40-something against the Bad Lions, but still, it's impressive against any NFL team. And
yep.
I'm not, Kyler, he scares you with his legs. And I think that's the best part of his game is extending the play, and then his guys can get open. Because outside of Hollywood Brown, Rondell Moore is not a polished route runner. He's just going to catch short stuff. And I mean, George, I guess they I don't know if he's hurt or what, but he hasn't done anything the last 2 weeks. I think he was just a direct replacement for Moore, and then as soon as Moore came back, he was out, which I kind of think is stupid, but whatever. I think Seattle gets it done. I mean, I obviously love +3 too, but I definitely think they can win this game outright at home.
Yep. I like it, man. This is one I've had my eye on. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. You'll probably push me in that direction. There's actually another guy I recorded with on this show tonight who did not take that pick, but said what I should probably take for my plus money pick is Seattle money line.
Yeah.
So, there's other sharp guys going that way too. I will say I definitely doubted. I thought the Seahawks offense was just like a lucky week or two, basically.
Right.
But man, they're proving it. Geno's stats are off the charts. Like you said, I think Kenneth Walker shows a lot of promise.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so, it hurts to lose Rashad Penny for sure because it's depth.
Right.
I don't think it's killer for them.
No.
And I mean, their receivers are great. So if you got a quarterback who can get them the ball, this is a good offense. And it's crazy because I thought this team was going to win like 2 or 3 games. And it is definitely not looking that way now.
Yeah.
So I like it, man.
Yeah. I had them, I think, the 3rd worst team in the league. But it's them and the Falcons. I mean, you got to just admit sometimes your preseason predictions were wrong and you got to adjust.
That's right.
And this is a team, if you're going to give me them against a secondary that I don't like, I don't really care how bad their defense is because I think you're not going to outgun them. I don't think Arizona can – you'd have to be a really, really good offense to outgun this team.
Yep. Especially at home.
Or have a good defense.
Yep.
Which I don't think Arizona does.
Right, like San Francisco did, right?
Right. You really good defenses, you can shout out Geno Smith. Still Geno Smith.
Yeah.
But you give him a subpar defense, he's going to
crushing it. He's crushing it. What's the confidence level for that one?
We'll go 2 for the money line.
Yeah, I like it. Probably 3 for the -3, huh?
Yeah, for the +3 it would be 3.
Or the +3, exactly. I'm making you go the other way.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter it was like one of them things where it's like they don't tell you the player's name, but it's like person A and person B.
Oh yeah.
And it was like the stats, and it was him versus Matt Stafford, and it was like not even close.
Not even close. Yeah.
Not even close.
Well, I mean, Geno's like top 5 in most passing categories right now.
Yeah.
So
gotta respect it.
Crushing it. All right, dude. Well, hey, good stuff tonight. Fun to throw in a little bit of college at the beginning, too. Thanks for jumping back on, man, and let's go get some dubs this week.
All right, one more free college pick.
Okay, gotcha.
And Kent State +8.5 against Toledo. The game I love.
+8.
I was on Kent State last week, and I loved them last week, and it didn't come through, but I'm going right back.
All right. I like it. And
like
honestly, I'm not a big fan of Louisville this year. I think they've chronically underperformed. So
yeah,
I don't hate that.
They got lucky against a couple teams.
Yep.
UCF specifically.
Yeah. All right. I like it. 2 college picks now, plus the NFL. So
the
everybody
rest on bets day.
Yep. Make sure you go follow at Kevin Himes8 on Twitter. And then what is it again? Himesy, what?
Himesy 215.
215. Check out the profile too if you can't find it, but go follow him and you will not be sorry you did. All right, man. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
As always.
Yep. All right. See you, dude.
Later.
Happy to be joined again tonight by Yanni. Yanni, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, man. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing fine. Although, I mean, this is hard for me to say, but I feel like before we get into any picks or anything, we need to address the elephant in the room, which is the Twitter beef that you got in today. Some pretty serious stuff. So there was a guy who posted that Justin Fields is basically the best quarterback in the NFL this year, and you disagreed with him. How are you feeling about that?
I mean, he laid out a pretty compelling argument that the guy's completing, I think, 11 yards per completion. So, I mean,
wow.
Apparently, I don't know if it's true, but I heard Andy Reid's on the horn trying to get a trade worked out with Mahomes there. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. But this guy was
that would be
convinced.
Smart.
Yeah,
probably a better contract too if you could trade Mahomes for Fields straight up.
You got a point. Yeah, no doubt, man.
Man, some of these people on Twitter, it is amazing the takes that you can find out there scrolling through the timeline.
It's crazy because you just never know who's being serious and who's being a little bit of a smart ass. And it's like, is he serious? Is he just kind of being a smart ass? Like, what's going on here? But, unfortunately, this one, I think he's being serious.
It didn't seem like he was being serious, which is funny. But you're right. You can't read tone into anything. I feel like I get sarcastic on Twitter sometimes, but there's no way to indicate that really. So
right.
Here we can be sarcastic and people can hear it in our voices. So it's much better. So, all right, man. Well, hey, let's move past that and jump into some picks for this week. It's Tuesday evening when we're recording this. So obviously still things developing with injuries and different stuff. But from where we're at today, we'll give it a go. So what are you going with first this week?
All right. I'll preface it by saying that when you ask for the 1, 2, or 3 point confidence level here, I'm going to have to go a little low this week. I think partially because I didn't have a great week last week, but also because I'm doing some things that I'm really shaking my own head at here. But I'm trying to stay with the process here. So the first one I'm going to give you, and I will say they did come through last week as ugly as it was. But I'm going to start with the Indianapolis Colts. Right now they're laying -2.5 and hosted a Jaguars team coming off a bad home loss against the Texans. We know about Indy's struggles in Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's actually had those same struggles in Indianapolis. They haven't won there, I believe, since I think it was 2017. So they've had their own troubles going to Indy. We talked a little bit about the Jags last week and said, if they're for real, they win this game against the Texans. If they're not there yet. And I think we saw that they're not there yet. And I don't want to do a 1 week overreaction on the Jags because I think this team is headed in the right direction. But I think going on the road here, Indy might be as healthy as they've been. I think they'll get Darius Leonard or Shaq Leonard back at the linebacker position there, which should help their defense a little bit. And I think, as long as they can slow down the running game, we've seen Trevor Lawrence kind of revert a little bit back, making some of those rookie mistakes. He hasn't been able to get the ball to Christian Kirk. I think here that as long as Ryan doesn't make big mistakes, big if, because he's not mobile, the Jags can somewhat get after the quarterback there. But I think if he takes care of the ball here, I think they're going to be okay. I think Jonathan Taylor will be back. If he's back, obviously, I think that gives their offense another dimension there. I just think in this spot, home, you're basically saying these teams are even roughly. And I think with what we saw, even though I'm so wishy-washy on this Colts team, I think this is the right week to play him laying less than a field goal at home. So that'll be my first pick.
I feel like the Colts this season are, that girl that cheats on you, but then you just go back to her and then she does it again, and you're mad, but then you go back to her. It's like, I can't quit you.
Man, I'm watching that game the other night that they're on, and I'm literally saying, I'm never betting on this team again. And, somehow they come through, they get it done, and now you're like, all right, they're back on the good side here. So
that's right. I mean,
who knows? I mean, it's anytime you're betting on two teams that aren't great, there's gonna be some you can question that. But I think again, when you line the numbers up, a home team, veteran quarterback, as healthy probably as they've been, at least defensively, they should win this game, and we're under the key number of 3. So I'll give it a shot.
For sure. In fact, I looked. I was just double check while we're recording, and there's -2s for -110 out there right now. So,
yep.
What's your confidence level for that one?
I'll give it a 2. Again, I can't say just because it's the Colts, I can't say that I'm crazy confident, but it lines up as far as what I have, so I'll give it a 2.
Yep. I think this stuff is worth paying attention to. I think I messaged you and a few others earlier today. This far into the NFL season, it starts to feel like there's a very small number of teams that feel pretty trustworthy. Then there's a very small number that feel like they're always going to shit the bed. And then it seems like there's a whole bunch of teams that it's like, I don't know what's happening that week. And you do have to I think the point you made that Indy's played Jacksonville better in Indy, and that Indy has started slow in recent years. Like, these things don't guarantee that they're going to turn it around, but it sort of looks like history repeating itself. So,
yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And I think, again, when you kind of look at that and you start saying which teams can you trust, which ones do you can't, you're going to have to, in 2022, you're going to have to make some decisions on some teams that maybe aren't as trustworthy as you would like, if the numbers and the matchup and everything lines up the way that you want it to. And again, I would not be surprised if this ends up at -3. So I think if you can lock this in under 3, I think you're in a good spot.
Agreed. All right. What are we going to for the second pick?
All right. So the second pick, and this burned me badly last week. And again, I can't believe I'm doing it, but I'm going to give it another try. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals team total over again. Right now it's 22.5 on DraftKings. If you, depending on where you go, because last week it was 22.5 on DraftKings, you could actually get it 21.5 on Bovada. So shop that around. Right now I'll say 22.5, because obviously 22 is not a perfectly, likely number to land on. So I think you're good even at 22.5. But I think there's a couple things I look at in this game. Number one, the Bengals offense, they realistically could have had more points the other night. They stumbled in the red zone, turnover on downs at the 2-yard line with some crappy play calling. Always going to be a factor with the Zach Taylor team. I mean, you look at some of the things they do offensively, and sometimes you scratch your head. But I think there's more meat on the bone there when you look at that team. T. Higgins sat out, or basically sat out, last week's game. Hopefully with a week of rest, he's going to get back. And on the opposite side, the Saints are probably going to be without Marshawn Lattimore. All of a sudden, that secondary, the way that they like to scheme with Lattimore in man coverage, that could be tough. And then you've got Burrow and Chase kind of going back to New Orleans, their little stomping ground there. I think they end up having big days. I think at the end of the day, this is a game, and granted, I thought it last week and it didn't get there, but I think this is a mid to high 20 game for the Cincinnati Bengals here. So I'll take a shot with them one more time, 22.5. Let's see if that injury to Lattimore and the homecoming for Burrow and Chase and those guys, let's see if they can get it done.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that with Lattimore. That's definitely a big deal. And Cincinnati, it just is hard to imagine a team that has this much talent at the skill positions not going off a little bit, which they really haven't done this year so far. So it just feels like it's a matter of time till they're in the 30s even.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things you can be encouraged about if you're the Bengals. The offensive line has been better the last 3 weeks. I won't say they've been good, but compared to the first, couple weeks of the season where they were atrocious, they're at least playing better. Mixon for the first time got a little bit going on the ground last night or this past primetime game here against the Ravens. So I think if they can get that running game going a little bit, again, Higgins, if they can get him in the mix, especially with Lattimore out, they have a huge advantage at the skill position there. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out, but yep. I think they'll get it.
All right. What's your confidence for that one?
Honestly, I would give you a 3, except based on what they did last week.
Right.
Seeing how the coaches kind of left some points on the field there, I'll give this one a 2 as well.
Give it a 2 as well. All right. Well, that means it's time for the plus money pick, Yanni. Where are we going for that?
All right, so I'll tell you what I should be doing, but I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I think what I should be doing here is taking the Seattle Seahawks as a home dog because I think they have a legitimate shot to win that game against the Cardinals. I think it's a good spot for them. I think they match up fairly well against the Cardinals. Cardinals have some injuries. I think it's a spot where Seattle can definitely win. But instead of doing that, I'm going to go with a ridiculous 8.3 team teaser for plus 110. And we're going to take a crack at that. And considering how bad teasers have been for me, this is probably a terrible idea, but I'm doing it anyways. And when you hear the first leg, you are going to really shake your head at this one and say there's no chance this is hitting. But I'm going to take the first leg being the Washington Commanders plus 9.5 on that teaser there. They're plus 1.5 going into the Thursday night game. I don't know who'll win that game. I'm obviously not high on the Commanders. I don't think anybody is, but I don't see that Bears team blowing anybody out. I don't care who it is. So I think that even if the Bears win that game, it's kind of a one-score type win. So I'm going to take them with leg one. Leg two, I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Bucks, which will get them to minus 0.5 point against the Steelers on the road there. We'll see a little better effort from the Steelers at home. Kenny Pickett actually did not look horrible in that game, despite the fact that that team got drilled this past weekend. But I can't see Tom Brady losing to that team. I can't see Tampa going up even on the road. I think they're going to be able to score. I think the defense will do enough to kind of make Pickett maybe make some mistakes or at least win the game. So that's leg two. And then the final leg is going to be minus 2.5 points. LA Rams at home against the Panthers. This scares the heck out of me because I think the Rams have proven that they're not a great football team this year. But the Panthers starting PJ Walker, new coach, which that may give them some life. I've heard that angle that, hey, rule's gone. Maybe they're going to play hard. Could be the case. I don't see how Carolina scores. And to be honest, I looked at taking the Carolina point total under because I think they're really going to struggle. They're number one at stopping opposing runners in total yards. So you wonder how much McCaffrey is going to be able to give them. If you put this game on the shoulders of PJ Walker against guys like Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, that's probably not going to be good. So, with that being said, I don't know that this may be a close game. 10.5 seems like a lot of points for the Rams to be laying to anyone. But I think 2.5 is fair. I think they can win this game by at least a field goal. So those are my 3 8-point teaser legs there that I like.
Love it, Yanni. I like going back to the teaser. We're going to hammer that thing until it gives in,
It's going to work, man. It's going to work. One of these days.
Work. That's right.
Days.
Hey, a question. Do you know what Carolina's team total was set at?
14.5.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're right. I mean, how are they going to score points? But 14.5, I have not seen a team total that low. Wow.
The problem with that is all it takes is one, fumble, scoop, and score, and you're basically done, right? Yep. So it's kind of one of those deals where I don't think they get there. I mean, I think they end this game with 10 points, but I mean, you're really just opening it up to one thing goes wrong, right? Stafford gets hit and drops the ball, makes a bad throw that's pick six. I mean, all of a sudden you're basically toast. So even though I debated strongly taking that under, and I don't think the Panthers are going to get over 14 points, I figured, well, we'll go another angle here and basically take the Rams to win. Which,
right?
If they don't win this game, man, I'll tell you what.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, this is one. If they've got to have this. I think too, especially with the way things have been going lately. It'd be one thing if this was a look ahead spot for them or something. They didn't take it very seriously, but they can't afford to screw around with any games at this point. If they want a chance at winning the division, but even making the playoffs, if they're going to lose games like this, could get iffy pretty fast. So
absolutely, man, this is definitely a must win for them. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And I will say, going back to your first one, which you were hesitant with, the Washington Commanders, because who wants to bet them? I haven't, since I looked at the lines a week and a half ago for the first time, I've been staring Washington down the whole time, thinking about taking them on the money line. And I haven't done it, and I maybe won't because it's really hard to bet them. But I do think their skill position players are better. Both quarterbacks suck. I don't know. I get it's just two bad teams, so it's hard to pick either one. But I definitely don't think that Chicago has them covered in any sense, though, either.
No, that's it. It's not so much even betting on Washington as it is kind of fading the Bears. I mean, the total right now is sitting at 37.5. And I mean, that could even go down.
Yeah.
And if you're saying, hey, you're going to give me 8 extra points when I'm already getting a 1.5 in a game that has a 37.5 total, again, I mean, you're basically saying that all you need to happen is the Bears don't blow them out, which again, I don't know that this Bears team is good enough to blow anybody out.
Yeah, agreed. Although they were almost good enough to come back and beat my Vikings, but I don't know that that's much of a feat at this point.
I mean, I think they probably find a way to win the game. It's a home game. It's one that they're probably looking at and saying, hey, we can and should win this. But I think this is a team that when they win games this year, it's going to be 3.7 points. I don't see them winning these 14-point type games. I don't
come
see
down to the end. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I agree. All right, man. Well, good luck this week. Thanks for jumping on and sharing the picks as always.
Appreciate you having me, man. Good luck this week.
Yep. All right. See ya.
Yep.
The moment we've all been waiting for. D Nice back with some more best bets. What's going on, dude?
Not much, man. Happy to be back. It's crazy that we're already at week 6. Successful start of the season, and the season's rolling along here.
Yeah, man, you've been crushing it. I know you're doing more than just on the show that's going well, but even the picks for the show have been going really well for you.
So
although
far,
you didn't
so
get a
good.
third straight sweep. I mean, we do have to
Couldn't
point that
get
out.
the
Only
sweep.
2-1.
Couldn't get the sweep. I think I'm going to blame that on Teddy Bridgewater getting hurt. And like, did he need to leave the game? I feel like that if this thing with Tua never happened, he'd be in that game. And I think that the Dolphins are just kind of treading carefully and saying, well, we got to make it look like we're taking all the precautions times 100 because the league's breathing down our neck because we let Tua out there. And he probably shouldn't have been out there in the second half against the Bills. And he shouldn't have been out there 4 days later, and then he got hurt. But that's another story for another day. I'll take 2-1.
Yeah, for sure. No, there's not – it's a bad feeling because, you know, I was on the Dolphins too. It's a bad feeling when a few plays into a game, the backup quarterback goes down and they got to bring in the third stringer who's like a 6th-round draft pick from some nowhere school. That's always trouble.
It wasn't great. I knew that bet was kind of screwed at that point. I am a little bit impressed by the Jets, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Don't have the Jets on my card this week, but I'm sure that we'll discuss the Jets maybe even on my podcast at some point. They're kind of increasing up. I'm like, oh, all of a sudden the Jets and the Giants might be playing in some like top 4 to 5 games per week, and that's not something I expected, man.
No, I don't think any of us expected that. Everybody tune in tomorrow on the Wager Rager podcast to see which games get covered there. I'll be excited to see which ones you're highlighting. So
for sure, still need to figure that one out. I need to see as to when I'm going to jam it into. Have to watch the Phillies playoff game today, right?
Oh yeah,
there might be a rain delay in that one too. So if there's a rain delay, I think we'll jam it in, or I'll just be severely distracted and be watching and talking about football and yelling about the Braves and the Phillies, which should be fun too.
Yes, that would be fun. Well, that'll be coming up. Well, hey man, let's get back to some picks. You've been on a roll. Let's keep it going. Where are you going with your first pick this week?
First pick of the week is going to be another first half pick, and I know that we've been loving these first half picks. The Eagles got there twice in a row. Made it a little bit sweaty last week, right? Not doing the Eagles. I'm actually doing the Niners in the first half to cover 3. Got it last night. We're recording late morning, Wednesday the 12th right now. Got it late Tuesday the 11th at Bovada. There were some other books that had it. There's some 3.5s too. Would steer clear if you can get that 3. And I got it at -110 juice.
Nice.
I think that the Niners are hitting their stride. They have an awesome defense. If you take a look at their games, they've allowed the highest total was 19, and that was in that monsoon, right? So I kind of take that with a grain of salt. But, I mean, 19 is pretty good. Since then, 7, 11, 9, 15 points. You're playing a Falcons team that I think that most of us are impressed with what they've done so far, right? Like, I didn't expect them to be super competitive, but they're a decent team. I think they end up in that 5 to 12 range. But I think this is more of a play of the Niners hitting their stride. They're staying out east. They ramsacked the Panthers, who I know are going through a ton of issues right now, but maybe that'll clear up because they fired their coach. So congrats to anybody that bet Rule for first coach fired, right?
Absolutely. We talked about it a lot. I don't know if you bet it. I never bet it. So
We talked about it a lot. We talked about Roll and McCarthy. We would have swung and missed on the McCarthy bet, but Roll, if anybody listening got it, then great. But McCarthy, he's going to be there for who knows. Anyways, I just really think it's a good spot. They're staying out east. They have all the stats in the world. They're not going to allow that many points. I mean, it's probably going to be like a 27-16 game. First half, if the Niners can get me like a 14-7 cover. I don't see the Falcons moving the ball that well. They run the ball pretty effectively so far, but we're going to see what happens against the number one run defense and the number one defense in the league right here. It's like, well, what are you going to do? Yeah. Pitts has been either not performing well or hurt. You don't have Cordarrelle still, right? And
no,
even
I think he's still out. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you do, I still think that it's going to be tough to move the ball. And Jimmy G, man, say what you will, but he's getting it done. It might not be sexy all the time, but I could easily see them scoring 2 to 3 times here in the first half. Hopefully give us an easy cover.
Yeah. Do you, are you going with the first half over full game just because that, the 5.5 ultimately to have to win by that much is a little rougher than the 3 even and a half?
Yeah, that's kind of what I narrowed it down to. And I said, okay, Atlanta could be down, 12 late. They're at home. If you get a backdoor cover, you're going to be sitting there and saying, okay,
right.
The Niners won this game by 5 points, but I feel like that they could have won by 21 points. And I've been in that spot before. So I'm just going to try to whittle it down to just that first half and say, okay, I think that the team that I want to bet on here will be up early and often and just do those 2 quarters and not have to worry about the whole game.
Yeah. No, I just was asking your approach because I like that angle sometimes, especially like you said, where you think there's a mismatch. It's like teams tend to come back a little bit if they're getting blown out. This kind of stuff happens. And so I think if the number is closer to 6 and you can get 3 or less in a first half, I do think sometimes there's a reason to prefer that because you just don't need as many points. And I don't feel like the extra half matters necessarily. Exactly. Unless it's the Bills. They keep the
unless it's the Bills and they just blow teams out by 40. But that's kind of what we've done with the Eagles so far. I did it the 1 week with Carolina, probably got lucky, but just try to strip it down and say, okay, don't want to have any backdoor covers. And if the team that I have money on doesn't need points late, that's fine. And I can get that first half home pretty easily. So
totally.
Let's get this first half home pretty easily.
What's the confidence level on that one?
Let's do 3 on that one. That's probably the bet that I like the most for this week.
Okay. All right. Well, what's number 2?
Number 2. Hopefully it doesn't take a number 2 on us, but
you never know.
You never know. We're going to do, it's a plus money pick. Had some trouble, and I think a lot of us ultimately have a little bit of trouble picking the plus money pick, right? But I think that I do like this spot, plus 102 Rams team total over 13.5 in the first half. Plus 102, shop it out there. Hopefully that's still available. Got it at FanDuel around 11 p.m. Eastern last night. You have the Rams and the Panthers, 2 teams that are big time underachievers. The Rams might be the biggest underachiever, right? But to me, it's like, this is a get right spot for the Rams. If the Rams can't get right in this spot early and often against a Panthers team that they don't even have Baker, which might be an upgrade to PJ Walker.
You never know
that is an upgrade, right? You got PJ Walker back there. You got a new coaching staff, and I think that's good, and that can invigorate a team. But you're going west, and it's like, even if the team's invigorated, the Rams need to put together a good first half to just pull their shit together. They ultimately need this, because if you don't, you risk losing this game, and they're 2-4, and you can ultimately kiss this season goodbye, because the Niners
2-4.
I totally agree, because you're not going to catch the Niners. The Cardinals are sneaky all of a sudden, don't have a good defense, but they're sneaky. And the Seahawks also are probably the biggest overachievers. And it's like, okay, so you don't have gimmies in your whole division here. You need to come out big here. So I think that they can get 2-3 scores against this Panther team. I was actually kind of not big on the Panthers, but like the Panthers over 6.5 win total. I think it was, but they've just proved me wrong. Matt Rule is a bad coach. They'll turn the page, and I think that they could be a team in like a month that we want to maybe back in certain spots. But as for right now, Rams get right here first half at plus 102 for 13.5 points.
What's the confidence level for that one?
Let's do a 2 on that just because the Rams have struggled to get the 13.5 points in full games recently, right?
Yeah. Man, you're right about them having to get right here, though. I mean, we're far enough into the season that they got to start making something happen. And it's been ugly so far. So, and they still have the talent there, right? Like you look at the pieces and you feel like it should be better than it's been, at least. We'll say it that way.
Should be better. Stafford hasn't looked good. His PFF pass grade's 35th in the league so far. So
that's not great.
It's not great. That's not great. I mean, there's a lot of guys higher than him. I think Carson Wentz is somehow lower than him still. I think Carson Wentz is like 40-something.
It's amazing.
Which is pathetic because there's only 32 teams. And, that means that the other guys that are throwing passes are grading out higher than these two. So I think there's room to regress to the mean. I hope that it's not a lost season. Well, I really don't care if it's a lost season. Just get right here in this first half.
And then they can do whatever they want.
And then they can do whatever the hell they want.
That's right. All right, man. Well, 2 down, 1 to go.
1 to go. I think this one's going to shock some people out here.
Okay.
It's actually Cowboys plus 5.5.
Oh, boy.
Going against my Eagles.
Oh, boy.
Going against my Eagles. Now,
you're going against your Eagles.
Yes. If this loses, I'm going to hear about it. And I'm going to hear shit, and I probably won't feel too good about it. I think it's too many points in this spot. I know that Dak's not playing. If he was playing in this game, I think you see this game closer to 3.5, 4. You're probably getting a couple points here because Cooper Rush is still the quarterback. He's been pretty good. I'm not going to say that he's an upgrade over Dak. I don't even think he's as good as Dak. The ceiling for Dallas is higher with Dak. But I think in this spot, just taking a careful look at it and saying, okay, the Eagles, I think if I had these two teams on a neutral right now, I'd say I have the Eagles about 1.5 to 2 points over the Cowboys. You put them at home. It's tough to play in South Philly at night. Maybe that's what's leading to the 5.5. But I tend to give like 2 points for home field. So even if you want to give 2.5, I probably end up as like a spread of 4. So here I think you're getting about 1 point to 1.5, maybe even 2 on a low total. It's a total of 42.5. And I think that's an element of these two Ds have been pretty damn good. I think that the Cowboys in terms of success rates, number 2 only to the Niners. The Eagles D has been good. They've low-key, the run defense hasn't been great, but they haven't really needed it because teams aren't running on them because they need to put up a bunch of points in the second half. So I think in this case, I want to see what the Eagles can do in the second half also. It's like I haven't seen the Eagles do much in that second half. Now they haven't needed to, but it's like, well, they kind of didn't look so hot against the Cardinals. It's like, okay, do they need to scheme a little bit better in the second half? Do they need to adjust? And you put it all together, and it's like the Cowboys are a damn good team. I think that the Eagles ultimately win this game, but I think it's like a 23-20 win, and I think you're getting a couple points here. So it's not sexy. It might be a popular pick outside of Philly. Here in Philly, it won't be, but Cowboys plus 5.5, I try to bet with my mind and not my heart.
Yeah, that's smart. So, and actually, I just looked at right now. This is 11. This is getting stretched out a little more. The recording this week than normal, but we're at 11:30 on Wednesday morning, and it's plus 6 now, minus 110. Yep.
Plus
so you're getting
6.
plus 6.
Plus 6 at what book?
Actually, at PointsBet, it's minus 107 even, but I haven't been using that because not everybody can get PointsBet. So I think it's fairly widely available at minus 110.
Pretty interesting because I saw some 4.5s last night. I saw 5 across the board, and I got the 5.5 at FanDuel. So it's gone the other way, and there's some money. Yeah,
so here's an interesting thing. I'll have to put this out on Twitter when I post this video. I recorded with Kevin last night, and there was Philly minus 4.5 at minus 110 was one of his picks. So 4.5 was available last night So we're like, a little over 12 hours later, and it's a 1.5 difference. So
it's a 1.5. Yeah, you're probably getting somewhere there. At 4.5, I would say no bet. At 5.5, like if it lands at, I don't know, 22-17, you win. If it's a 4-point game, like I could easily see this being like, if we do have points, 27-23, 20-16. So it's just that extra little something there. And I think that the Cowboys do lose this game, but they take it away and say, hey, look, we played you tough in Philly and we lost by 3 with Cooper Rush. We have your name ready to go and kick your ass on Christmas Eve as they play. And they host the Eagles on Christmas Eve.
Well, and if the Eagles can keep it rolling by that time, so be it. They're going to have the division pretty well wrapped up.
That could be very true. Could be very true. Could be one of the only games that the Eagles are underdogs in.
Oh,
we'll see.
Absolutely. No, if you look at the schedule, the Cowboys and Eagles both have it pretty easy. The Eagles even easier, but it's pretty easy for both of them from here on out. So, all right, man. What's the confidence on that one?
Let's do a 2 on that one. I can't do a 3 against my Birds, right?
No, you
can't do a 3 against Philly.
Definitely can't. So, all right, dude. Well, good stuff, and always good to talk to you. Hopefully, we'll keep it rolling this week. You've been on a great run. Do make sure you go follow at wager_rager, which is where D posts the podcast that he does and a lot of different stuff. So check that out. I'm sure we'll be getting another podcast together, working around the Phillies, and he'll have that out sometime later this week with a deeper dive into a lot of these games.
For sure. Probably talk more about this Eagles-Cowboys game. So if you want to hear more, I'm sure we'll do a deep dive into that one.
Absolutely. Might be a good idea with
Phillies and Braves.
With the line movement, might be a good idea for people to check that out and get a little more in-depth analysis before moving on anything. So
intriguing matchup. Sunday Night Football too.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a good one. Looking forward to it. So
no doubt.
All right, dude. Well, hey, good to talk to you as always. Have a good one.
Appreciate it. Let's get some wins again.
All right, time to wrap it up with some picks from me. So this week, first, I am going to go to a team that has been talked about numerous times, though I think not bet very much over the course of this video or podcast, and that's the Seattle Seahawks at home. But I'm going to take the angle of first half +1, which you can get at -110, at least when this video is being created, you can get it at -110. A lot's been said here, so I won't reiterate too much, but what this goes to again is just Seattle's offense has been really good. Maybe they won't be able to keep it up all season, but we've seen a big enough sample size that I think they have to prove that they can't do it at this point. Arizona's defense has not been good. Now, certainly Seattle's defense is not good either. I actually thought about, I did take the over, but quite a while ago. As high as it is now, I'm going to just stay away from that one. It's a higher total than we've seen for most games in the NFL this season. Arizona's offense has looked okay, but generally when they've looked okay, it's been in the second half, and it's a lot of Kyler Murray running around. And that's why I'm going with the first half bet here, is if you look at the splits, the Seahawks have actually, in all but one game, they've been really strong in the first half, scored a lot of points. And I don't have my numbers right in front of me, but I believe that on the road, which is a small sample size, the Cardinals are averaging like 2.6 points per game in the first half. So they have been a really bad first half team, especially on the road. And so I think that puts Seattle, I think Seattle's in a good spot to win this game outright this week. I think they're certainly in the running for that. But I like the first half numbers even better, and like Seattle to get out to a fast start. I think it's possible the Cardinals come back at the end. So I'm going to take them first half +1. So again, even if it's a tie at the end of the first half, we still win that -110. And I'm going with confidence level 3 on that pick. My second pick is Denver versus the Chargers under 45.5 at -110. I mean, there's not tons to say on this one. I mean, I'll share a couple matchup things, but really until Denver proves that they can score some points, I know that they scored a decent amount of points against the Raiders. That is the only game where they have. And until they prove that they can score some more points, especially with the news coming out about Russ's injured shoulder now and how bad he's looked, if there's anything that looks like a reasonably high total, I'm going to go under it with Denver. A couple things matchup-wise. The place that the Chargers have been the weakest is against the run, just like last year, and especially on the edge against the run. Not what Malcolm Gordon is best known for. I do think it's possible that Malcolm Gordon has a decent game here and that the Broncos are able to get the run game going a little bit. But as people always say, if they get the run game going, that's the clock ticking because the clock's not stopping. And so even that can work in your favor to keep the score down. If Denver goes on long drives, runs 5, 6, 7 minutes off the clock, and then they get a touchdown, it's not necessarily killing the under here. On the Chargers side, they are facing what's been a reasonably good defense for Denver. I mean, they've stayed in some games because they're able to hold teams down. Now, certainly the Chargers have a better offense than, let's say, the Colts. And so that is a bigger challenge. But again, I think that this is a spot where the Broncos are going to be able to stymie the Chargers at least periodically. So again, even if the Chargers score here and there, especially if the Broncos can hold them to some field goals, I like this to be a game that still stays under that total of 45.5. I actually would have had this closer to 42.5. So I think there's a decent amount of value here, given the way that these two teams play and it being a division game, which I don't read too much into the division game thing. But if you do look at the numbers, division games have gone under at a disproportionate rate. So we'll just throw that in as the cherry on top. So because of that, my second pick is going to be Denver and the Chargers under 45.5. That is confidence level 3 for me as well. My plus money pick this week, I'm going to go big. So most of the plus money that we've had on this show, myself included, is somewhere in the plus 100 to plus 120 range with a lot of teasers and different things, and I've done the same. This week, I'm going plus 320. I'm going to the Colts versus the Jaguars. This, I think, could be an ugly game. I do, as others have said, I think the Jaguars are trending relatively positively overall, but I think last week against Houston showed that this is going to be a rocky road for them. It's not going to be a straight line up. I still don't think the Colts are very good, though, as I talked about with Yanni, the Colts have started slow and gotten better in previous seasons, so if they do that here, that is just history repeating itself. But I think that this game will end up being relatively close overall either way. I don't see one of these teams blowing the other one out. So what I'm taking is Indianapolis. Oh, sorry, if you're watching the stream, my camera's messing up. Oh, there it's back. If you're listening to the podcast, you won't know, but I got derailed on the pick right in the middle. But it is Indianapolis to win by 1 to 6 points at plus 320. So because I think this game is going to be close, I actually thought about playing both sides of this. The Jaguars to win by 1 to 6, I believe, is plus 350 or plus 340. So I thought about playing both sides. I may still do that for now. I'm just sticking with the Colts to win by 1 to 6 points at plus 320, and that will be a confidence level 1 pick. Anytime it's plus 320, the confidence probably isn't going to be incredibly high. Though for a plus 320 bet, I do feel relatively good about this one and think it has a decent shot of hitting. That's all the picks for this week. Hopefully you have gained some good information from listening to everybody. It's a lot of fun to put this together, and after a rough week last week, looking to bounce back and have a strong one here in week 6. As always, would appreciate hearing any comments, the things that you're on this week. Respond to the video. Would love to interact about that. Please do hit that like and subscribe for me. It's not that much to do. If you're on the podcast, please do rate and review. Or if you're hearing this podcast for the first time, subscribe to the podcast. That stuff really helps and is greatly appreciated. With that said, good luck to you on your NFL bets this weekend, and we will talk next week.